Welcome everyone. This is another video in this lecture series on strategic marketing management. This is lesson number 2, part 2, and in this video we will be dealing with price and promotion. Now, if you are new to this channel, consider subscribing and hitting on that bell notification icon so that you will be notified if there are new videos in this particular channel. Now, if you are new to this channel, I would suggest also that you will begin studying the videos uploaded in this channel which is related to this particular subject. And so you might want to visit our channel, Infinite Wisdom, and then click on the playlist, and in that particular playlist there is an option that you can choose strategic marketing management, and start from the beginning until this particular video so that you will understand the context of the discussion. But if you're already familiar with the terminologies and concepts of the strategic marketing management, watching this video would probably help you understanding what the purpose and the role of pricing and promotion in a strategic standpoint. Now, we'll begin with price. Now, price is undoubtedly one of the most significant elements of the marketing mix. This is in consideration of the fact that price does affect the customer's decision-making process during a purchase decision. I know that you have been into the malls or probably in a supermarket, and there are many instances of your visit into these particular places that you are choosing products with price as a prime consideration. You don't want to purchase very expensive product. You don't want to purchase products which are not expensive, very cheap product, but devoid of quality, meaning price is a primary consideration of the purchase. Quality, on the other hand, is the prime consideration of the repurchase. And so you have to take into consideration that particular concept, because that will not be taught in your books probably. Price is the prime consideration of the initial purchase. Quality is the prime consideration of the repurchase, because if you purchase a particular product and it's of high quality with a very low price, of course you will purchase it again. And so price first and then quality. It might sound like, well, that's a bad idea. Well, it might sound a bad idea, but remember, Chinese products are flooding in the market because of price strategy. Why? Because they have been using price as a tactical weapon to destroy any competitive advantage of specific companies or corporations that are offering the same product to the market. And so that's the reason why Chinese products are dominating in the market, because of pricing and aggressive pricing strategy. And so what are the common mistakes in pricing? First, pricing decisions are often too heavily biased towards cost. If your manufacturing process is so costly, you are so attached to that particular cost that you want to recover it as soon as the market receives your product. Well, that is not a good strategy. Why? Because at the end of the day, you don't have to recover the investment, the cost in the manufacturing of the product at the expense of your customers. You have to listen to your customers. You have to take into consideration the pricing of your competitors. What could probably be the response of your customers with your market pricing? And so this one is a common mistake. You are heavily biased towards your cost structures and failed to take sufficient account of the client's competitors or customers' response to the patterns. Next is, prices are often set independently of the mixed elements and without sufficiently explicit accounts being taken of, for example, advertising strategies and market positioning. You don't even think about advertising strategies and the expenses of advertising this particular product, or probably doing a specific market positioning. And so that's a mistake, because prices is the primary consideration of a purchase, as I told you a while ago. And so where are you going to position in the market? You are going to position in the rich market, in the relatively rich market, in the poor market, or the very poor, the poorest of the poor market, or in any of that particular spectrum of the social stratification. The problem is it is set independently, meaning when you determine the pricing, you have to determine also your advertising and market positioning. But the common mistake is you just don't care about these elements. As long as I can recover the cost, that would be it. No, that's not it. Why? Because it would destroy your identity in the long run, because your customers would not like your product or probably will not purchase your product. Or if you price it too low without any consideration of advertising expenses, well, congratulations, you just had a disaster in your company. And so that is also another mistake. Next is too little account is taken of the opportunities to capitalize differentiation. Now, product pricing is also an opportunity to capitalize differentiation. Your product is different because you're priced differently. The problem is you just copy the pricing of your competitors, yet you don't have the same quality as your competitor. And so what you're going to do is you have to tweak your pricing strategy to make it different from those other product offerings that are available in the market. Next is there is an insufficient variation of the prices along the market segment, meaning that each of the market segment you should arrange different or pricing strategy. Next is prices are often too defensive rather than an offensive posture. You don't engage into aggressive pricing, wherein your competitors are pricing their product too low, and then you are, trying to recover your cost immediately at an instance or at a particular short period of time. And so that is at some point bad to your company. And so those are the common mistakes in dealing with pricing. Now, there are two kinds of firms in terms of pricing. First is the price takers, and second are the price makers. Now, price takers are those organizations and companies that follows the leading brand. What are the price being offered by the leading brand? You just follow that particular price, or differentiate a little bit lower or a little bit higher. But of course, that is an absurd idea to make your product priced higher than the leading brand, because that would probably be a bad idea. And so what you're going to do is you have to price your products as slightly lower to that of the leading brand. The price makers are the leading brand. They are very powerful within the market due to their size, or probably with the control of these particular brands in a particular segment of the market. And so by controlling the market, they dictate the price of these particular products. Next is the factors in price setting. Now, we already know that price is a very important factor in dealing with product success or dealing with customers so that your product will be successful. And so what you're going to do is you have to take into consideration these particular factors. Number one is corporate objectives. Now, corporate objectives is a very important aspect in the price setting, because this is the total perspective of what the desire of the company or the corporation is. It is the objective of the company. If the objective of the company is to become a leading brand in the context of the masses, which cannot afford very expensive products, the first thing that you have to do is reduce price and find ways in order that you can get cheap raw materials, cheap labor, so that you can deliver the corporate objectives. Next is the nature and structure of the competition. Do you have so much competition in that particular market segment? If there is limited competition, you can pump up the prices high. But if there are more competitors in that particular market, the price goes down. It's a basic concept of supply and demand. If there are more supplies, there will be lesser prices. The interaction of supply and demand. Next is the product life cycle. What is the stage of this product in the product life cycle? Is this in the beginning? Is this in the growth, or in the stage of maturity, or in the stage of product decline? And so your pricing will also depend on that particular perspective. Next is the legal factor. There are products which has a legal consideration in terms of pricing, that you cannot price too high, you cannot price too low, because there are price ceiling and price floor that is provided for by specific laws in different regions in the world. Consumer factors. Who are your target consumers? Who are your target audience of which you want to sell your goods and services? If your target is in the middle class, price it according to the standard of the middle class. If you are targeting the high-end market, price it according to where your customers belong. And of course, cost. You cannot price product without absorbing the cost. Of course, that's a basic accounting thing. And so you have to absorb cost in the price per unit of a particular product. That's a basic thing. And so don't forget about these particular factors in setting prices. Next is, what are the objectives? What are the objectives of prices? First, survival. The most fundamental way of pricing objective is when the organization is facing difficulties. You have a problem with your money, you have the problem of making the company survive, and so you have to implement survival pricing. Meaning you just have to literally break even the product, or at least you earn quite a little bit in order that the company can continue to operate, without necessarily taking into consideration huge profit, because you are struggling financially. And so you have to give in to that particular perspective, that you just earn a little just in order to survive, and that's it. That's a survival pricing. Next is ROI. Prices is set to satisfy the need of the customers while achieving a predetermined level of return on the capital. These are particular pricing strategy wherein prices are set at a compromise so that the customers will be happy. At the same time, you will get the cost of the manufacturing of those particular product, and then later on reduce the price in order to establish more customer following. But you already have your investment secured as return on investment strategy. Next is market stabilization. Pricing objective, where price is set in a way that competitors will not retaliate. And so if you have competitors in a particular market segment and they are pricing that particular level of pricing, you also have to adjust so that there will be no retaliation from your customers, especially if you are the new entrant to the company, if you are the new entrant to the market. Don't be too aggressive, because you could be killed in an instance if you will fight against the market controllers, those who are dominating in the market. Next is maintenance and improvement of market positioning. Pricing objective that is used to increase market share. At some point, this is an aggressive pricing strategy, because you want to create and establish a wider market share, and so you have to at some point induce pricing war against your competitor, and whoever wins gets the greater market share. And so this is it. Quite at some point aggressive, but not too aggressive in the sense that it will 100% convince the other party, the competitor, to go at war with your company. But at least the purpose of this slightly aggressive pricing strategy is to increase market share. Next is meeting or following competition. You just simply follow the prices of your market leaders. Next is pricing as product differentiation, like pricing low because you want your product to be different. So pricing as product differentiation. Next is market skimming, entering in the market with high price and only gradually lowers it as it seeks market segments. Next is market penetration. Now, market penetration is one of the most, if not the most aggressive pricing objectives, because this particular strategy sets the price at a considerably low level to ensure that high levels of sales are secured, and it will keep the competitors at a distance. Meaning that the competitors will not enter into that particular market because you are there and you're offering a mind-blowing low price products. And so that is market penetration. Next is early cash recovery. When faced with problems in liquidity, if you don't have money anymore, your company is struggling financially, this is your pricing objectives. Or probably you believe that your product or this particular product have probably a short life in the life cycle. So prices will be designed to generate high cash flow and lead to early recovery of the cash or the investment in that particular product. And so whether or not the product will continue to flourish in the market or it will eventually die out, the most important thing is that you have recovered already your cash. You have already recovered your investment. Next is discouraging others from entering the market. This is some kind of a market penetration strategy, but in this particular instance, it will discourage others by deliberately setting a low price so that returns are low, to send signal to those who are willing to engage in a price war or any new entrants to frown at a particular market. Meaning, in order to discourage the entrance to the market, you will deliberately provide or deliberately set your prices very low so that there will be low return, low income. In return, these particular companies will no longer enter that particular market, so they will be discouraged. Although this is still another kind of market penetration, in this particular instance, you are keeping new entrants. In market penetrations, you are keeping competitors distant. I hope you get the point in that particular discussion. Now, using price as a tactical weapon. Now, price variation depends on the geographic differences. You have to price the product depending on the geographic place. In this particular area where there are many people, more competitor, more businesses, you have to price it low. Now, in places that there are no competitor and probably quite remote, of course, you have to price it higher, or that is dependent already on what strategies you will adopt based on the geographic difference. Next is discount for early payments, off-season buying, and to encourage high volume purchases. Discounts on high volume purchases, like let's say for example, buy one take one or buy two take one. That's also a kind of a pricing tactic as a weapon against competitors. Next is trade-in allowances to boost sales when the economy is generally sluggish. Discriminatory pricing in order to capitalize upon the ability or the willingness of a particular market segment to pay for a higher prices. Now, what do you mean by discriminatory pricing? Well, discriminatory pricing means that you will price the product depending on how much your target audience or your customers, your client, is willing to pay. And so your price will, of course, vary dependent on individual customers. Optional feature pricing, which allows you to price basic products such as a car to be kept low, but for substantial profits then to be made by adding accessories and other materials that would increase the experience of the owner of that particular product, such as sunroof of the car. And so if you add accessories, this is where you can gain substantial profit. Next is hitting at the competitors who will appear particularly vulnerable. This is sadistic at some particular point, but in the market forum, in the business world, there is no way that you will allow your competitors to stamp or probably to maintain their position in the future would probably crush you. Promotions and marketing communications. These are the guidelines for marketing communication program. Now, promotions is a very important aspect in the marketing because it is a means by which you communicate your message to your customer. And so what are the guidelines in marketing communication programs? Number one, you have to determine the nature and the detail of the target audience. You have to undergo market audit so that you will know what is the nature of your target audience. Next is short and long-term communication objectives. Learn, feel, do model or the response hierarchy model. Now displayed in your screen is an image of different response hierarchy models like IDA model, hierarchy of effects model, innovation adoption model, communications model. And so you can pause on this and try to determine how things go in this particular diagram, in this particular example, so that you will understand how things go in the determination of communication objectives so that you can capture the attention of your target audience. Next is the message that are to be used. What to say, how to logically say it, how to say it emotionally or symbolically, who should say it. What to say is the content of your market or marketing communication. What is it that you want to say? How to structure your message so that your target audience will eventually understand what is it that you want them to understand. How to say it emotionally or symbolically. Now, let's say, for example, this doctor that is in the image that is flashed in your screen. What emotions do you see in his face? Now, who should say it? Of course, this is the source in this particular image. This is the doctor that is the source of this particular advertising or in this particular market or marketing communication. Now, if you have seen advertising that sells some kind of a product that is related to medicine, and the one that is giving the testimony is a doctor, there is a credible source. And because he's a doctor, the message, the content, the structure, and the format is sent properly so that customers will immediately understand the message that you want them to understand. Next is the communication channels that will carry the message. Could be personal level, like the advocate channels, the sales force, for example, the expert channels, the consumer groups and institutes that would support your idea or support your marketing message, the social channels, your neighbors, your friends and associates, your community around. Those are the social channels in the personal level, or the non-personal levels like the newspaper, television, magazine, cinema, the social media. These are the channels that are available in the current time that you can use in order to send your marketing communication message. Next is the budget. How much is the budget in a particular marketing communication program? Now, there are 4 approaches in determining the budget. First is the affordable approach. You will find ways and means in order for you to make sure that at a lowest possible cost, you can provide the same impact to your target audience. Competitive parity, you will determine how much your competitors are spending. That will also be how much you're spending for your marketing communications. Or percentage of sales, say 12% of the total sales will be dedicated to marketing communications program. Objective and task, it will depend on the objective and the tasks that have to be performed. Of course, this is one of the most fundamental way of determining the budget. What is the objective and what is the task to be performed? And so if the task is difficult, then there will be higher budget. If the objective is ambitious, there will be higher budget. But if the objective is limited and the task is limited, the budget will also follow. There should be limited budget. Next is the mix of communication tools that is to be used. Now you will determine what particular tools are you going to use in order for you to send your message to your target audience. Now, first consideration is the degree of control that is needed in terms of how the message is delivered. Who is in control in the delivery of the message? If you want to control your message, then you need tools of which you can control the message the way you want. Like social media, you can of course control whatever it is that you want your customers to see and read and learn about you and your product. Next is the financial resources available. How much financial resources are you willing to invest in the marketing communication program? Of course, that will depend on that particular factor. The credibility of each of the tools in the eyes of the buyers. Do they believe in this particular advertising medium, the tools that you will use? Because if your customers don't believe on the credibility of these particular tools as a credible source of information, then they will not in turn trust your brand. The size of the target market and their geographic spread, of course, this will depend also on the size of the market. If the market is huge, you will need tools that can cover all of these markets. Next is the nature of the product and the market. What is the nature of the product? Is this an electronic product? Is this a basic commodity, or whatever product category is that, and whatever market that particular product belongs will also be addressed in determining what particular tools you are going to use. Push or pull strategy. Push strategy involves heavy use of sales force and trade promotions. Best use when there is no brand loyalty, wherein customers will purchase at the moment where they are convinced of the beneficiality of a particular product. Pull strategy is more appropriate when there is a brand loyalty, wherein you just have to advertise your product and then eventually your customers will find you. That is a pull strategy, of course, because they are loyal to your brand. Next is the stage reached by the product in the life cycle. We have already discussed this one a while ago if you've been listening in this discussion. Next is the buyer's readiness stage. So this is now the role of advertising, publicity, to encourage awareness and readiness. Because no matter how good your product is, if they're not ready If your customers or target audience is not ready to adopt your product, the probability is you will be wasting all your effort, money, and investment. And so that's the reason why you have to invest so much in marketing communication program, so that they will be ready. Your market will be ready in purchasing or adapting your goods and services. And so when your buyers are ready, lesser expenses and lesser efforts in your marketing communication programs. But when your buyers are not ready, meaning they are not aware about your product, you have to spend so much, invest a lot of money, time, and effort in order for you to present these products so that they will know and be aware about your product, and they'll be purchasing, in effect, whatever it is that you are offering them. Next is how the result is measured. There are two kinds of measurement: qualitative and quantitative measurement. Qualitative measures determines the change in attitude. Is there change of attitude in your customers? Are they coming now to your stores? Are they looking for your product? These are qualitative measures. What are the testimonies of those who have used the product? What are the testimonies of those who have heard and have seen the advertisings of your product? So these are qualitative measures. Quantitative measures are focused on the levels of sales. How much did we earn in this particular period of time? What is the level of satisfaction of our customers? Are they satisfied or are they not? And so you have to measure marketing communication programs through these particular elements. Thank you for watching. That is the end of this particular video. This is lesson number 2, part 2. And in the next video, we will be dealing with place, people, physical evidence, and processes. I hope that you learned something. Thank you for watching.